5 Kidnapping Stories. Story 1. One Halloween night in 2022, I was hanging out with 3 of my friends. He was 15 years old, as were 2 of my friends, but one of them was 16. So there was my friend, whom we'll call Alan, who was wearing a costume that looked like a mouse. Then there was my 16-year-old friend, whom we will call Brianna, who brought with her another friend of hers, whom we will call Christina. I thought it would be fun to take a little break from the usual Halloween activities, like trick-or-treating or scaring the kids, so I asked, "Do you want to go to the park near my house?" Everyone thought it was a good idea, and our parents said it was okay for us to go, so we left. Now, my costume was pretty cool. I was wearing something that made me look like a dragon. He had a large mask that looked like a dragon's head. My friend Alan, as I mentioned before, looked like a mouse, but my friends Brianna and Christina had chosen different outfits. They were dressed like cowgirls, but their outfits showed a lot of skin, which made me a little nervous because sometimes people look or make comments. As we were walking to the park, I noticed something strange. There was this big black car, like those SUVs, moving very slowly right in front of us. It felt strange. Let me paint you a picture of our neighborhood. The street we were on was sloping downhill, with houses lined up on both sides of the street, and when you get down the hill, the street turns sharply left. Just before that curve, on the right side, there is a house, and next to that house there is a small alley. This alley goes between the park and that last house, and if you walk through there, you end up on a different street. There was this big black car in front of us moving very, very slowly. Then it stopped right at the entrance to the park. I thought it was a bit strange, but we kept walking. Then a man who appeared to be someone's father got out of the car and stood right next to us, on the side where we would be passing. This made me feel a little uneasy. I stopped paying attention to the funny chat my friends were having. I wanted to keep an eye on this man. As we approached, perhaps the length of a small bus away, I felt something deep inside. You know, like when you watch a scary movie and you know something bad is about to happen. That's how I felt. Every part of me was awake and alert. I looked around trying to see if there was another way out. I saw that alley we talked about earlier, the one that goes to the other street. Whispering to my friends, I said, "Let's go down that alley, okay?" They didn't argue and followed me. As we headed to the alley, I looked back. The man was looking at us and then got back into his car. That worried me even more. Without waiting, I shouted, "Run." My friends were confused and asked why, but I was already moving fast, heading back to my house. When we arrived at my house, panting and out of breath, everyone looked at me with questions in their eyes. "Why did we run?" they asked. I told them about the strange feeling the man in the car gave me. Some thought maybe he was being too cautious, but she nodded and said, "I felt strange too. It's good that we left quickly. I've heard so many spooky stories before, and this taught me to always trust that feeling in my gut. It's like an alarm. I have more stories where I felt that way, and maybe one day I'll share them too. The lesson: always trust your gut, even when everything seems fine. Your instincts could keep you safe." Story 2. My name is Trinidad, and this story is about something that happened 2 years ago. Every time I think about it, I feel bad. I live in Casa de Oro, Veracruz. One day, my best friend Fabiana and I decided to hang out. We were both excited because school had just finished for the summer. We wanted to go to the mall and spend time together, but we didn't have a car. Like many times before, we took the bus to the mall. We arrived around 3 in the afternoon and stayed for a long time. We had a lot of fun and lost track of time. By the time we realized how late it was, the sun had already set. It was around 8:30 p.m., and the mall was going to close early, especially since it was a weekday. We noticed that the mall was quite empty. Not many people like to go to the mall during the weekdays. Suddenly, I realized that my phone was dead. I remembered that there were some chairs in front of the mall with outlets for charging. We went there because I needed to call my parents to pick us up. We didn't have enough money for the bus ride home. Fabiana and I sat face to face. I was super focused on charging my phone and trying to call my parents. I didn't really realize what was going on around me. But then I looked up and saw two older men walking towards us. They looked like they might be homeless. I thought one of them might want to sit down, so I got up and offered my seat. I was still very focused on my phone and trying to find a ride. Suddenly, Fabiana nudged me a little trying to tell me something, but I was too worried about how we were going to get home to ask her why. Then, out of nowhere, Fabiana grabbed my arm tightly and started running. He yelled at me to keep running and not stop. Right in front of the front door of the mall, there was a strange old gray car that seemed to have seen better days. We ran quickly past him. To be honest, I was really lost. I didn't understand why we were running so fast and felt a mixture of fear and confusion. I risked a quick glance over my shoulder and saw the same two older men from before, running right behind us. My heart was pounding fast as I watched them get into that old gray car that was parked near the driveway. They were definitely following us. I was so scared. Fabiana and I kept running until we saw a bus stop ahead. There was a family waiting there, and we thought that if we could get close to other people, we could be safer. We rushed towards them trying to blend in. We asked a kind lady there if she had any extra money, so we could catch the bus. Fortunately, he gave us something. I was so grateful, but I still didn't understand everything that was happening. Once we got on the bus and sat down, I turned to Fabiana and asked her why we ran like this, what happened. She was breathing hard for the whole race, but she told me something I'll never forget. He said that after I offered my seat to the older men, they would look at us in a creepy way. One of the men, the one who was sitting, waved his fingers at the other guy. It seemed like she was telling the other man that it was just the two of us. She felt that they were planning something bad, that they might try to grab us. So she decided to run, dragging me with her. Hearing this, tears filled my eyes. I was so grateful to Fabiana. Without his quick thinking, I can't imagine what could have happened to us. A couple of weeks later, while checking Instagram, we saw a post from the local news page. It was about the same shopping center we were in. The story said that two men had been arrested there for attempting to kidnap young girls. The worst part was that one girl was still missing. My heart sank. We were so lucky that day. He was so relieved that those bad men were caught by the police. Story 3. My name is not important, but I need to share this with all of you. I haven't told my close friends, including Alicia, about this. Always remember to trust that feeling, your gut. This story happened in December of 2019. One afternoon, around 8 p.m., I drove to Walmart in my town. I had to pick up some things for my work. Even though it wasn't too late, I still like to be careful whenever I go to a store at night. I always make sure to park my car near the driveway, right under a bright light. Safety first, right? So I went into the store, grabbed what I needed, and went back to my car. Before I started my car, I checked my phone. I sat there for a moment, just taking a moment. Then there was a knock on my car window. I looked and saw an older woman. I always think people might really need help. So I opened the window a little bit to hear, but I made sure I couldn't reach inside. She began to speak. "Hey, I saw you when you were walking to your car. You look nice. Want to buy some tomatoes? I have them in the back of my van." This felt odd for two important reasons. First, it was December and I live in the Midwest. You don't find fresh tomatoes growing in gardens during this cold weather. Second, who sells tomatoes in the Walmart parking lot so late at night? I told her no, thank you, hoping she would leave, but she persisted. "Honey, these tomatoes are the best. They are fresh from the garden." I was getting nervous and upset. I didn't like the feeling I was having with her. It just didn't feel right. I slowly pulled my keys out of my jacket. Tied to them was my pepper spray. I grabbed it firmly, making sure the lady couldn't see it, but I was ready to use it if needed. "I don't want to buy any tomatoes," I said in a firm voice. "I have to go. Someone is waiting for me." That part about someone waiting for me was a lie. But I figured if I thought someone was waiting for me, maybe I'd think twice before trying something. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked a little annoyed and started walking towards her white van. I noticed that it looked like the kind of van they sometimes call creepy. Now, here's the thing about our Walmart parking lot. It has two entrances and exits, but one was closed due to some work they were doing, so I had no choice but to stop by their van if I wanted to leave. I always drive carefully in parking lots because people around here just cross in front of cars without even looking. But as I passed by his van, my curiosity made me look inside. My heart sank. Inside I saw three big guys, two in the back and one next to the driver's seat. I pressed the gas pedal hard, ignoring the stop signs, and tried to get as far away from there as possible. I was afraid. Looking back, I wish I had taken a picture of the van and told the police, but at that moment, all I could think about was walking away, making sure they weren't behind me. I drove down different streets, making sure they weren't following me. This experience made me trust my instincts more than ever. With this story, I want to tell everyone to be cautious. We often hear warnings about strange men, but women can also be just as dangerous. It's scarier in a way because we're taught to trust other women. Now, every time I see tomatoes, I remember that night. It reminds me of what could have happened. Please, everyone, always stay alert and safe. Story 4. When I was 19, I had a memorable experience. Just so you know, I'm a guy who likes other guys. At the time, I had a job where I was doing pretty well, and because of how well I was doing, my boss sent me to Mexico for special training. They said they would cover all my expenses, so I thought, why not? I wasn't the only one who went. In total, there were 6 of us. 2 boys including me and 4 girls. After a couple of days in Mexico, 3 of our teammates decided they didn't want to stay any longer and packed up and left. So it's just me and 2 other girls left to continue learning and training. Once we finished our work sessions, we used to go back to our hotel and relax. Many times we just ended up hanging out at the hotel bar. One afternoon, while we were relaxing at the bar, a guy came up and took a seat across from us. We started talking and he told us his name was Renato. Renato mentioned that he was in Mexico for work and that he lived in Santiago de Chile. We told him that we were also in Mexico for work and that we were from Mendoza, Argentina. Soon after, The two girls I was with told me that they were going out to a nearby store, but would be back soon. So it was just me and Renato at the bar, chatting about this and that. I had a feeling that Renato might be flirting with me, but he was doing it subtly. Renato then said he was on his way to his room and suddenly asked me for my Snapchat. Maybe it was because of the drinks I'd had, but I thought, why not? And I shared it with him. Later that night, when I was in my room, Renato messaged me on Snapchat. I wanted to know if I'd like to hang out. I thought it might be fun, so I said yes. Then he asked me if he could come to my room, thinking it might be a fun night for me. I told him where I was staying. Within a few minutes, there was a knock on my door. Renato had arrived. We continued chatting a little more in my room. I had had some wine after I got to my room, so I was feeling a little dizzy. Renato noticed it and asked if he had drunk too much. I just nodded, confirming his suspicion. Then things took a romantic turn. Renato approached. We looked into each other's eyes, and before I knew it, we were sharing a passionate kiss. When Renato and I were still in my hotel room, he suddenly mentioned my coworkers. He asked if they might want to join us. That seemed strange to me. I'm not sure, I replied, feeling a little wary. And I don't know their room numbers either. I was lying, but something about the situation made me feel uneasy. Renato said he would be back soon because he wanted to get some food. After he left, he quickly texted me asking if I knew of a good place to get tacos and if I wanted to tag along. Since there was a tasty taco place near our hotel, I agreed. As we walked to the taco stand, I grabbed Renato a bit, feeling the effects of my drinks. But when we got there, we found out it was closed. At that moment, a suspicious-looking van pulled up nearby. Renato opened the back door and told me to go upstairs. Why? I asked, confused. It is a special service of the hotel. He will take us on a short tour of the city and drop us back, he replied. Something felt strange. My instincts were screaming at me to get away. I started to feel clearer, and the alarm started ringing. I declined and tried to walk away, but he grabbed my arm and pulled me into the van. Looking inside, I saw another man hiding in the shadows. Panic took hold of me. I let go of his arm tightly, telling him I was heading back to the hotel. I quickly texted my co-workers explaining the situation and then went to one of their rooms, collapsing. The fear was real, and the gravity of what could have happened was hitting me hard. Later, after I had returned to my room, I heard a knock on the door. Looking through the peephole, I recognized Renato. My heart was pounding. I was silent, but when I didn't open the door, he began to bang on it hard. Another hotel guest confronted him due to the noise, which caused Renato to flee. I never saw him again after that, and it was a wake-up call for me. Trusting strangers, especially abroad, can be risky. I learned my lesson that day, and I'm thankful that something worse didn't happen. Please, everyone, always stay alert and safe when you are in unfamiliar places. Story 5. When this story happened, I was 19 years old, but this was 12 years ago. Let me paint you a picture. She was a young woman with blonde hair. She was quite small, measuring about 1.62 meters and weighing about 57 kilos. Because of my size and appearance, many people thought I was only 15 years old, even though I was older. Here's what happened. My boyfriend and I were so excited because we had saved up and planned our first big trip together. We were going to go on a cruise. This was not just any cruise, but one that would take us to different locations in Europe and a stop in Tunisia. On cruise ships, the big ship takes you to a place, stops for a while, and lets everyone come down and look around. We were doing this at every location, excited to see new things and enjoy the sunny weather. But then something strange happened when we were about to get off the ship in Tunisia. Everyone who wanted to get off the ship had gathered at a meeting place. One person on the ship, like a helper or something, was telling everyone when to come back and other things we needed to remember. Then something strange happened. Another boat attendant, not someone very important, approached my boyfriend and spoke only to him. He told my boyfriend that I shouldn't get off the ship in Tunisia. He didn't say why or explain much. He just kept saying that it wasn't safe for me and that I should stay on the boat. We thought it was strange, especially since no one else was told something like that. But I get scared easily, so I decided to listen and stayed on the boat. My boyfriend and I had a relaxed day, just soaking up the sun and enjoying the peaceful boat. After that day, we had more fun on our cruise ship and soon forgot about that strange situation that occurred. But a few years later, we were watching a TV show about bad things happening on cruise ships, like people disappearing. In that program, they said that sometimes the bad guys had friends working on the ship. These friends told the bad guys on land about people they could take away. We suddenly look back on that day in Tunisia and wonder if that's what almost happened to me. Come to think of it, it really did seem like an easy target. She looked like a young woman, even though she was no longer a teenager. My boyfriend, although he did his best to protect me, didn't seem very strong. He was as tall as most boys and he wasn't very big. If something bad happened, someone could have pushed him and then grabbed me. That guy who worked on the boat and talked to my boyfriend probably knew something. I mean, why else would he tell only us not to leave ship? No one else received that warning, only us. Oh, and another thing that made us feel more confident in our terrifying thought. On one of the cruise nights, everyone dressed up in fancy clothes. There was a big dinner, and there was also a cameraman. I was taking nice pictures of everyone to keep as a memento of the fun night. My boyfriend and I were really excited. We stood together, smiled a lot, and had our picture taken. We thought it would be a great memory for later. But when it came time to buy the photos, there was a big problem. All the photos were on a wall with numbers, so you know which one was yours. All of the others' photos were there, but ours, missing. We searched high and low and even asked the helpers, but no one could find our photo. It was as if someone had made her disappear on purpose. Thinking about it now, maybe someone on the boat was trying to hide the fact that we were even there. If they planned to take me, they might mean that I wasn't on the boat from the beginning. Honestly, maybe we're just thinking too much about it, but it all seems to fall into place. In the end, I don't know why that boat worker told my boyfriend to keep me safe on the boat, but I'm so grateful that he did. Please, everyone, always stay safe and alert when you are in unfamiliar places. After that day in Tunisia, and remember what happened on the cruise, my boyfriend and I have been much more cautious in our travels. We make sure to always be aware of our surroundings and to trust our hunches if something doesn't seem right. This experience taught us that it's always best to be cautious, even if something seems insignificant in the moment. It's always best to trust our instincts and take steps to keep ourselves safe, especially when we're in unfamiliar places or unexpected situations. So please listen to your instincts, stay alert, and take extra precautions when you are traveling or in new situations. You never know when a little precaution could make the difference between a safe trip and a dangerous one. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it serves as a reminder of the importance of